In this video, we'll see how to use completing the square to solve quadratic equations. So when we complete the square, we want to move constants to one side of the equal sign and make a equal to 1. Then we want to find out what c is. C is the number that's going to help us complete the square on the side with the variables. And we'll add it to both sides. And then we can factor and solve. So for this first problem, x squared plus 20x plus 19 equals 0. I'm going to take that 19 and move it to the other side of the equal sign. I get x squared plus 20x. I'm going to leave a little space here for my c to complete the square, and that's equal to negative 19. Now, a is already 1, so I don't need to worry about dividing by anything. So, what is c? Well, c is b over 2 squared. My b is 20. 20 over 2 is 10, and when I square that, I get 100. So I need to add 100 to both sides of this equation. And now, how can I factor x squared plus 20x plus 100? That is a perfect square trinomial, x plus 10, that whole quantity squared, and that's going to be equal to 81. To solve for x, what I want to do is I am going to take the square root of both sides of this equation. And the square root of that quantity x plus 10 squared is just x plus 10. The square root of 81 is positive or negative 9. And to isolate x, let's subtract 10 on both sides. I get x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 9. That means x is equal to negative 10 plus 9, that's negative 1, negative 10 minus 9, negative 19. Let's not lose sight of what we're doing here, right? Remember, we can graph the related function, x squared plus 20x plus 19 is equal to y, and notice the intercepts here. The intercepts are at negative 19, 0, negative 1, 0, right? Those are the solutions to our equation. For this next equation, let's move the constants to one side. So I'm going to add 77 on both sides. I get 2m squared plus 8m. That's going to be equal to 72. Now a is equal to 2 here, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And remember to divide everything by 2. So 2m squared becomes m squared. 8m becomes 4m. That's all going to be equal to 36. All right, what do I need in order to complete the square here? b is 4. 4 over 2 is 2. And 2 squared is 4. So I need to add 4 to both sides of this equation. If I factor m squared plus 4m plus 4, I get m plus 2 squared. It's a perfect square trinomial. And that's equal to 40. I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I find out that m plus 2 is equal to the square root of 40, but I can simplify that. The square root of 40, that's equal to the square root of 4 times 10. That's going to be plus or minus 2 times the square root of 10. So I want to make sure I simplify that radical. And I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. I find out that m is equal to negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 10. Okay, let's complete the square to find out what w is in this problem here. I'm going to add 24 to both sides, get those constants together. I get 5w squared minus 10w. That's going to be equal to negative 9 plus 24. That's equal to 15. Now I want to make a equal to 1, so let's divide everything by 5. I find out that w squared minus 2w is equal to 3. What is the term that's going to help me complete this square. b is negative 2 over 2, that's negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1, so I need to add 1 to both sides. What is the factored form of w squared minus 2w plus 1? That's going to be w minus 1, that quantity squared, and that's going to be equal to 4. I need to take the square root of both sides. W minus 1 is equal to positive or negative 2. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. W is equal to 1 plus or minus 2. So W is equal to 1 plus 2, which is 3. W is equal to 1 minus 2, negative 1. All right, last one here. My constant is already all up by itself on one side of the equal sign, so now I just need to find out what C is. My B is 6. 6 over 2 is 3. 3 squared, that gives me 9. So I've got P squared plus 6P plus 9 is equal to negative 14 plus 9. If I factor P squared plus 6P plus 9, I get P plus 3, that quantity squared. This will be equal to negative 5. To solve for P, I need to take the square root of both sides, and hopefully here you say, oh wait, I can't find a real number that's the square root of negative 5. So for this problem, there is no solution. What would the graph of this look like? If we were to graph the related equation, I'd get x squared plus 6x plus 14. I move the 14 over to the side with the variables equals y. See, we get a parabola here, and it never crosses the x-axis, so there's no solution to it. And that's how we can use completing the square to solve quadratic equations.